nutrition and overabundance of pseudo-experts that market very well in order to sell their products. The food industry is like any other industry, and it's designed to make money. It's among the top advertisers in the United States. In 2012, $116 million was spent on marketing for fresh fruits and vegetables. You might think, wow, that's a lot of money on advertising. Well, I did too, until I saw that the marketing for fast food topped out at over $4.6 billion the same year. And think about how many labels are on a box of food that try to convince you to buy and eat. The labeling claims are designed to make you think that products are better for you. You are bombarded with slogans like healthy choice and certified organic. But do you really need labels to convince you that a food is a healthy choice? I hope not. But here's an interesting fact. The Food and Drug Administration actually has data to show that when the package has labels on the front, you are less likely to read the nutrition facts panel, where the more reliable information can be found. It's also difficult to stay away from foods with enticing descriptions. You've probably noticed this too when you eat out at a restaurant. You don't often see menu items listed as simply fish or beef. Instead, you see descriptive words like Chilean seafood fillet or Omaha tender beef. Which one would you be more likely to buy? And these evocative descriptions and these names are rated as more appealing and tasty. Without a doubt, big politics are involved in foods that are backed with serious money and marketed to you. The way to approach food, and particularly food labeling, is to be as educated as possible and then to keep a healthy skepticism when reading labels and advertisements. It's not hard to see that health-related food labeling will likely influence how you feel about certain foods and ultimately what you buy and eat. But it's probably best to limit your purchases of packaged foods and ones with excessive health claims. So, how do you know what to do? Where are the rules that we should follow in the grocery store? How can we decipher a food label and know what we are really looking for? What can we really identify as important for improving our body composition, recovery, or for optimal aging? Well, there's no perfect formula, magic food group, or even a cursed aisle of the supermarket. Rather, there are poor options, better options, and best options. In this lecture, we will go over how food you consume each day, what your dietary intake should look like, and how to interpret each section of the nutrition facts label. The first question is often, how much food should I eat? Again, like most difficult questions, the answer is, it depends. It depends on who you are, how old you are, how big or how small you are, how much muscle you have, what your sex is, and what goals you specifically have. And these basic indicators will dictate the energy requirements of your body in general. So let's visit them one by one. First is age. At different stages in our lives, we have different energy demands. That is, different amounts of calories that we need to live optimally. Think of a child who is constantly growing and developing until the onset of puberty. In comparison to their size, a child will likely require more calories than an adult while they are growing so fast. And during certain events like pregnancy and breastfeeding, or recovery from injury or disease, we have increased energy demands, requiring a higher number of calories per day. And if you become more sedentary as you age, you will also require fewer calories. But if you choose to maintain or increase your activity as you age, your calorie intake will stay up. However, be careful here. Older adults often don't eat enough calories due to a variety of factors, including a loss of appetite. So based on which stage of life you're in, you will likely require varying amounts of calories. Next is body size. A larger person, we're talking actual body size and not fat mass, is going to require more absolute energy each day than a smaller person. assuming equal activity levels. Think of it as smaller engine versus a larger engine. The small engine just requires less fuel to continue revving compared to the larger engine. And a reasonable example is, again, an adult and a child. The child is growing and requires specific nutritional needs, but in absolute terms, the adult needs more calories because they have a greater body area to support metabolically. The third component to how much food we need is sex. Men tend to be larger than women. Therefore, based on the previous principle of body size alone, men will often require greater calorie intake than women. However, a second factor is the amount of muscle mass that men carry compared to women on average. And yes, many examples exist where this is not the case, but on average, men will have more muscle mass than women. So think of muscle mass as hungry tissue. Muscle tissue is highly metabolically active and demands a high energy intake to keep us moving. And with simple math, more muscle mass on your body frame equals more hungry tissue equals more food needed. Okay, with these factors in mind, you have an idea of what your basic energy demands are compared to your spouse or your best friend or your neighbor. But there's more to the equation. What does your typical day look like? Are you sitting at a desk all day long? Or are you training for a marathon? Or like most people, are you somewhere in between? Your relative activity level also determines how much food you need to eat every day. If you exercise a lot, you will probably need more food to refuel and recover. But there are also times when you would not want to replenish your energy stores completely. And the food you require depends on your specific goals. So, are you trying to lose weight? Are you trying to put on 5 pounds or 2.25 kilograms of muscle mass? In both of these cases, losing or gaining, total caloric intake will be different. And so will the components of that calorie intake, which I will go into later in this lecture. Another area we cannot ignore is your genetics. For example, do you have a tendency to gain weight or to lose weight easily? And what does your family look like? Answers to these questions are important. However, a lousy or a fantastic genetic predisposition must be massaged by the other factors that we can control. So you can see that your individual characteristics, your goals, and your training status, and even your genetics can influence your daily energy needs. In the research lab, using specialized equipment and calculations, we can also determine your calorie needs. Now, you might have noticed that on nutrition labels, certain nutrients are based on a 2,000 calorie diet. And by now, you know that not everyone eats a 2,000 calorie diet. Well, this just reflects the average intake of an average-sized person to maintain weight and serves as the most basic starting point for many people. But because some people might require 1,500 calories and others well over 4,000 calories per day, the percentages listed on the nutrition facts label must be adjusted case by case. Also, keep in mind that to convert calories to kilojoules, you simply multiply by 4.2. So, based on all of these factors, you know roughly how much food you should eat per day, and we'll go into more detail about this in an upcoming lecture. But how do you apply this information to what you see on a food label? Let's say that you're 40 years old, 5 foot 10 inches tall, and weigh about 160 pounds and are generally active. Well, using a metabolic calculator, you see that you should eat roughly 2,300 calories per day to maintain your body weight. So now what? Should your only goal be to go out and consume 2,300 calories regardless of where those calories come from? Well, this brings up the classic argument of, is a calorie, regardless of if it's 200 calories of pizza or 200 calories of cake or 200 calories of broccoli. Based on this logic and your 2,300 calorie per day goal, you could consume any of the following to hit your needs. 575 jelly beans, 4 Big Macs, 385 stalks of celery, or a variety of nutrient-dense foods all chosen to promote energy, lean mass accumulation, fat loss, and disease prevention. So, do you think of these food choices that they have the same effect on your body composition and overall health? Well, they all add up to 2,300 calories, right? I bet that your common sense tells you that this is not the case. And while these examples are extreme, they make an important point. If you consumed primarily calories from simple sugars each day, the 575 jelly bean example, you might not gain any weight overall, but you could be sure you are missing a ton of nutrients that your body requires to function well, and over time, this would alter your body composition and health for the worse. Importantly, the readout on your scale probably won't change, and you may go on thinking that all is well, but internally, the story could be much different. Chances are good that you would develop compromised metabolic, immune, and inflammatory function that at best would not allow you to function optimally, and at worst could lead to serious conditions like blood glucose and lipid abnormalities and possibly chronic disease. Okay, so the answer is pretty obvious here. While we need to be aware of the amount of calories that we eat, it is probably more important to worry about the quality of those calories. For example, let's compare 100 calories from jelly beans to 100 calories from spinach, which is about 14 cups of raw spinach. The jelly beans have 28 grams of carbohydrate, all coming from simple sugars. The spinach, however, has about 14 grams of carbohydrate. And the spinach also contains about 10 to 14 grams of protein, exceptional daily values for vitamin A and C, as well as small to moderate amounts of iron and calcium. You can see that even though these two foods have the same calorie density at 100 calories each, the spinach offers a much higher nutrient density, meaning a lot of nutrients with few calories. The spinach has dietary fiber, protein, and a number of vitamins and minerals. And you'd have to eat a lot of it just to get those 100 calories. Essentially, eating nutrient-dense foods provides a way for you to have more bang for your buck. In fact, many participants in my studies or clients that I've worked with begin eating these foods and find that they have to eat quite a bit of the quality foods to meet their calorie needs. Essentially, you really can eat more and weigh less. In fact, entire books have been written on the topic of, is a calorie really a calorie?